Yes, sir. Like this thing is every time every time I start sharing, it just pops in here like I want to see it. Piece of shit. But anyway. So yeah. So yesterday we looked. Yeah, I'm recording.
Not showing here. Hey, there's something wrong with my screen. All right, continue.
Can you see my screen? Can you not?
I can.
All right, cool.
But I can't see everything else on mine.
That's okay. So,
Hey man, Level,
yo, what up?
Level,
What's up?
what happened to oh you're recording. No, it's fine, we'll talk later.
No, what happened to what?
Oh, the other guys that we started with.
Uh, D-State is complaining about data. Matlatsi said she's not feeling well. She'll catch up on the videos that we're recording. Who else gave an update? Teddy as well said he's working night shifts, so he'll also catch up with the videos. Yeah.
Okay, so
Cool. I think as you've seen with all the other data types, that as we're going through the data types, we've been going through the structure of how we actually define maybe a list or string or a number like a dictionary in the previous lesson, but we also start looking at methods that are available for you to use on a particular data type. So yesterday we only saw one method, which was the get method, which helps us get a particular key from our dictionary. And in the case that that key does not exist, it does not give us an error like the same way it would if we were just trying to get the key using our square brackets. So I just want us to look at a few other methods on the dictionary that we will use in the future. So I'll start off with so I just copied the barcodes dictionary from the previous lesson. So it's in the intro file. So there's a method called keys, right? So you call the method keys on your dictionary, and this method will return. What do you guys expect this to return?
A list of
Okay.
keys.
Close. Come on. No, I'm running the wrong one. So yes, it's some kind of a structure that resembles a list. So so we printed that out, and it says dict keys, and then that in there is a representation of the keys. So as a list, if you look at it, but it's actually not a list. It's a dictionary. It's a dict keys object, but it's a sequence. So I think by now you've seen the different types of sequences we've been dealing with, right? So we've been dealing with we dealt with strings, which is a sequence of characters. We dealt with uh, lists, which is a sequence objects. So whatever the object may be, whether it's an integer, another list, the dictionary, whatever. And then this is another sequence that we're seeing. So the common thing that you can, the common thing around sequences is that you can use indexing on it, right? So now let's see what happens if I was to go. So I'm going to, let me just do this actually. I'll say keys equals to that, and that gives me my keys. So I have our keys there. I just want to see boom, on the same thing. Boom. We actually can't see that. We cannot use that on this particular the dict keys object. You see that because it is not a list, right? So there is a way to be able to do that so that we can use it this way. So you can actually convert your dictionary keys into a list. So this is called, I actually didn't show you this for other data types, but actually I think I'll do it. I'll do it here. So if I was to go, if I did that, see that? So like I've used the list function to convert my what's this? My barcodes, my dict keys into an actual list. So this is called typecasting. So when you change one type into another, right? So you convert, like if you convert a string into a number, or if you convert a number into a string, or if you convert a dict keys object into a list, right? So you can't always change something from one type to another, but in some cases you can. So like in this case, you can change your list from you can change your dict keys into a list by wrapping that in a list in your list function. So this is a built-in function that you can use, right? Understood? Cool. Not
Yeah, we're fine.
cool. So let me just go through other things that we can change. Like let's say I have the number 50, right? And I want to use this as a number, and I have another number here being 60, 56, whatever. And I actually want to add these two. You know what I can do? I could actually say total equals to number plus another number. We know that this won't work, right?
Yeah,
What?
Yeah.
Yeah. Why doesn't it work?
because you can.
Because number gives you it's a what's it called? It's a string.
Yeah.
You can't concatenate a string and a number.
Yeah.
And also if it's you cannot add a number to a string.
Yes.
If you want to add them.
Exactly. So if let's say you want to concatenate the two, right? So that means you have to convert your number into a string so that you're able to concatenate them, right? And then how you do that, I remember showing you the str method in the first few lessons, and when we started doing variables, saying you shouldn't use them as the names of your variables because they are special functions that are built in, right? So
yeah.
So actually now by wrapping this number here with an str, I'm actually converting this into a string version of the 56, right? So now if I run, so let me I'll print this. Let me just print this out there. Print that out, total. Right? And then I run that. So I get 5056, right? Because now I've converted this the number into a string, so I can concatenate the two. But let's say, what if I wanted to actually add them together? That means I have to convert this number into what? Into a some form of number, right? So what do you guys think I should use for this one? Just try it out. What do you think I should use?
NUM. NUM.
Nah, no, that's
INT.
INT, right? So you can use INT. So, but INT changes it into an integer, right? So meaning now I would get 106, right? Which is fine. But let's say this was 50.5, right? So if I run this, what will happen?
It will be an error.
And you, Cree, what do you think?
I think it will round off the 50.5.
Yeah, close enough. Close enough.
Or lose the decimal point.
Yeah, it loses. It actually failed. Ha. Ooh. Okay. So the int actually only takes in base 10 thing. It doesn't work. I actually thought it would lose the decimal point, but I'll show you a version of it that loses a decimal point. But so that means let's see what float does. Float work, right? So instead of using an int, we use a float because our number there is a float, right? So now we get 106.5. I actually thought so when you so what you were saying, Kree, right? Which is what I also thought is what happens when you have an actual number. So I'll just call it A and call it 50.5, right? I think when you do it this way, int of A, come on now, int of A, that's the one that it loses the decimal point. So I thought it would do the same thing for a string, but turns out it doesn't. So yeah, so that means when you're converting your numbers, your string version of a number into a number, the safest thing to use is a float in this case, right? Because if you try to use an int and that the number that you're expecting is actually not an integer, then it will fail. But it's safer to use a float. Maybe you could use a float after using that float. Like here, let's say we did this, right? Let's say we wanted to use the integer version of it. So we turn our number here into a float, right? And then after that, we turn our float into an integer there. You see that? If that's what you intend to do, you don't care about the decimal point. But if you do, then it's just much safer to use a float rather than an int. We good?
Okay, and then when you take it to the integer, it just removes the decimal. It doesn't round up or round down.
Nah, it doesn't. So even if I was to do that,
Okay.
you see, it's a 50. It doesn't, yeah. So yeah, I think so. We looked at yeah. So I showed you, yeah. This was I just meant to show you the method on our dictionary, but I realized I actually didn't talk about typecasting, which is something we'll need to do soon. So yeah. Cool. Let's just go through one other thing I think I should mention. So let's say you wanted to have some notes in your code, right, to explain what each line does, but that's actually notes that you don't want to your computer to execute, right? Because let's say you wanted to say, okay, here I want to say converts string to float, right? So, but if I run this, here, it tells me invalid syntax because it is. Because Python will read this line and say, what is this? It doesn't understand it. But you wanted to leave a comment in your code to explain something that you want to review later, right? So we use a the pound symbol, or people call it a pound symbol, or your hash symbol, or your hashtag. So on that particular line, so this line is now commented out, meaning you can have some comment in your code that helps you with something you don't maybe you didn't fully grasp, and you're just using and you wanted to understand later. So you just leave this there, like, okay, this converts a string to a float, right? And yeah, so here you could have another comment and say converts big to a list, right? So you can leave comments for yourself inside your code, so that when you come back to it, you can actually just quickly understand, because you left a note there. You're like, what does this do? Instead of saying that, you can leave some comments in your code. So this is how you comment out your code, right? So hope that's clear. So we can move on to yeah, also, so I just go typecasting. Yeah. So now there are other methods on our barcode that we can use. Print, or you already know. So you have your keys. You have you will look other ones. You'll just investigate on your own. But I will. Where is the one that I want to show you is items here, right? So look at that. So you have another one. You see, you have another one. You dict items, which gives you, what is this here? What is this? What is that? Let me do the same thing I did above and call and make items equal to that, and print out items there. Share the screen, run that again. So yeah. So what is this? If you guys remember. No idea.
No, I just remember that it's key and value, but that if they're all together, I'm not sure. Is it an entry?
No, it is an entry, but what type is this entry here? By just looking at it, what's the type? Because if you look at this one here, you can see that what's the type of this entry here? That's a string, right? This one here, like 100, 101, 102, right? The first one, we can see that that's 100. It's 100, and the type of it is a string, right? But here, looking at this one, so I'll do the same thing. I'll convert my items into a list as well, so that you can see them properly. Right? So we have a list here, right? It's a list. And what is this entry
Isn't
here?
it like Is it like a list inside a list, sort of a nested list?
No, it's not. It's another data type. It's not a list. It's another data type. We spoke about it in the beginning, but we haven't actually looked at it as a whole. But we will be looking at it actually straight after we answer this question. We will be starting with that other data type. What is that data type?
Let me check my notes.
Boolean.
Sorry?
Boolean.
Nah.
Tuples.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
This is a tuple here. So actually one other, let me just show you something else some cool thing, right? So I'm just gonna take the first item from our items, and then we see that, right? You have your 100 and your apple. And then if I was to, is another built-in function called type, right? So what that does, it tells me the type of the thing that I'm passing there, right? So if I run that, it tells me it's a, so you see that it says it's a tuple. Don't worry about the class there. So same thing, if I was to say what's the type of my items and I didn't know, you could say, oh, you see, tells me the list. You see that? And then let's see what total is there. Same thing. It's an integer. You see that? So you could actually take your variable, pass it there, and you get the type of that particular um, data type. So if let's say you've written your own code in this module, but you're accepting input from the outside, right? And then you actually want to use some form of data, like you only accept lists, right? So that means you have to like check if what you're receiving from the outside is a list. And if it's not a list, you can maybe throw an error and say, nope, this is not a list, I'm not going to work with it. Or maybe you're accepting sequences, right? And then if that particular thing is not a sequence, then you're like, I'm not going to accept this because I'm accepting a sequence. And your sequences would be your tuples, your lists, your strings, and amongst other things that we look at. But yeah, so you can use the type function to get what the type of your variable, or because I'm saying your variable because if you were to do something like this, I mean, you already know that this is a string, right? So you're actually maybe just trying to learn what the method is. But if you have a variable, and there are cases whereby like you're just accepting input from the outside and you don't know what that might be. So that's where it makes more sense to use your type function rather than just giving it something you already know, right? So because you can see if I'm going to type what's the type of one, I already know that one is a number, right? So I don't have to use my type to know what the type is because I already know what the type is. if you get my point. But yeah. So yeah, since we started with, so you can explore other methods on uh on your dictionaries. Actually, tomorrow I will try and show you ways so that you can find out more about things that you have questions about. Like we can go through the Python documentation and see where to find things or how to search for things on the internet if you're stuck, and which are the reputable sites you should look at first before you look at other ones. But I think Google helps with that. So, but yeah, I'll just give you some advice there. But I think we'll do that tomorrow. So just remind me that we need to look over documentation and how to search for things that we don't understand, or how to search for things that we don't understand, really. Cool. So we're going to start with our yes. Cool. Cool. So yeah, so your list is a sequence of objects. So your objects being any other data type, whatever data type you want it to be, the same as a list. But I mentioned the differences between the two, right? What is the difference between a tuple and a list?
The type of brackets that I use.
Besides, I'm going to do this so that we can look at them side by side, right? So besides the brackets, what's the difference?
It's immutable.
Yes. So like I can actually do this, right? For actually, why am I doing that? I can do and then let's see what happens there. Well, first VS Code is because VS Code knows already. It's telling me, hey, you're doing something wrong there. But let's say your VS Code didn't tell you that. Nope. Come on now. See that? So it tells me tuple object does not support item assignment, right? Because I cannot change the entries of a tuple once I've created my tuple, right? So now I cannot reassign index 6 to 96 because tuples are immutable. And there are other things that are different. So if I just go there, dot. So you see here, don't worry about the methods that have underscores in them. We'll understand those later when we start building our own objects. So, but yeah, don't worry about that. But looking at this, you can see there's just what the count and the index method, right? But if I was to do the same thing for my numbers here, look at that. We have append, clear, copy, count, extend, index, insert, pop, remove, reverse, sort. You see that? So it's because we know that append changes our list, right? Append changes our list. That means we are mutating our list. We're adding something new. So the reason we don't have append on a tuple is because it's immutable. We can't append because we cannot change the state of the tuple once we have created it. Same thing with clear. We have a count there, which is also there on a tuple. We have I'm not sure what extend does. We have index, which is also one that's found on the tuple. We're actually the only two that are on the tuple, right? You have your insert, you have your pop, you have your remove, you have your reverse, you have your sort. So most of these, you can see that the language that means implies some sort of mutation. Like when you sort your list, right? You are changing the order of your list, right? When you reverse, you're changing the order. When you remove, you are removing something from your list, right? When you pop, you're also removing something from your list. So that is why those methods are not found on your tuple because of its immutability. So yeah. So we will look at. Let's just talk about the count. So the count basically just counts how many of the entry you have, right? So from your tuples, when you go count and you give it a 1, this is saying count how many ones I have inside my tuple of numbers there. So if let me just print that out there. And then now it's telling me 1. So now let's say when I add that, let's see what happens then. Boom. Wait, what? Okay, wrong one. Wrong one. But I can actually let me use, so it's the same thing. So I'll just use the numbers there. You have your count there. So it's telling me I have 6 ones there. So this method is the same on both the list and your tuple. So they work the same. And there's another one, index. So what index does, it's saying tell me the index of 1 in my list, right? So if I was to run this program, what do you think the result would be?
I'm confused, nigga.
Huh?
Wouldn't it make a list of the indexes for 1? Like give you like 0, 1, 2 up to.
Oh, that's a good try, but nope. Nope. It's not a list. It's not a list. Try again. It's not a list of them. So what would it give me? It's actually so it gives me the first index of that, right? So if 1, so now it gives me 0 because the first time it sees 1 is at index 0. So if I was to say what is the index of 2, right? Wait, it said 2 is not in what? There's 2 is not in list. That's not true, right? That is not true. 2 is there. 2 is not in list. That's not true, right? Am I dreaming or what?
I don't know.
Numbers.
It's there on the list.
Oh shit! Because I changed it here. It's because I changed. Ah, my shit.
You changed
Yeah,
it.
because I changed. Yeah. That's how I was like. So I changed it. So it's saying, hey, this is not in the list. So I was actually gonna come to this, like, what happens when you try to find something that's not there, but it gives you an error there, as you can see. So so I go 4. Let's do 4 instead of 2, right? So it's 7. So it tells you 4 is at index 7. So you can actually say, okay, where does this thing? Where can I find this thing in my list? And then or tuple, and then it tells you can ask that question that way. But you should be careful when using this because you saw it throws an error. But we will look at how to deal with errors at a later stage, right? So sometimes you actually don't have to worry about things throwing errors because you will be handling those errors as they happen, right? So you'll say, okay, if this thing tells me this, if it gives me this kind of error, you can actually handle it without crashing the whole program. Because what like if let's just go back to 2 here. Let me show you something here. So if I was to say print, right, printing I am done after. You see that? This did not run. You see that? It did not run I am done because it does not get the chance to. It doesn't get the chance to run I am done because when an error happens and you don't handle that error, it actually stops your program right there, right? So if you want you to continue with the flow of the program, even though there are errors that are happening, you have to catch those errors. But we will be looking at those at that at a later stage. So yeah, for now, you should be careful with what you choose to use because you don't know how to handle errors yet. So yeah, just be careful. Maybe try it out and see it works, and then try something else that can help you, other than something that throws an error. Cool. So now I can just go full, and then everything should be fine. So yeah, I think that's basically it for our tuples. I think we can actually slide in a bit more. We can look at sets. Boom, 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 boom. Cool. So, what is a set?
Well, you said it looks like what is it? Like a list and like a tuple, but it has, instead of those square brackets, it has like curly brackets.
Yeah, so you have something like that, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And you'd have the.
So now, if I have an empty like numbers and it's empty like this, so are we saying this is a set?
I don't know. Now that's a tricky one.
Is it a set?
Because with that format one, the dot format one, you also use those things.
No, but those ones you're using these things inside your string, right? So for dot format, it
Okay.
won't be that because you're using your curly braces inside your inside your string. So you have something like this, right? And then you go dot format,
okay.
and then that's how you use it. But when you have this, what is the data type of numbers, right?
It's a set. It will be. I think it'll count as a set.
Are you sure? Why is it not a dictionary?
Let's check. Let's check there.
Oh, you want
Let's check.
So you want me to print?
Set.
Huh?
Is there an empty set?
Yeah, you can have an empty set.
Oh, yeah, because I'm using maths logic.
Yeah, that's good. It's the same concept. So, boom, boom, sets, right? You see that? So it is not a set, right? It says it's a dictionary, so it's taking it as an empty dictionary, right? So meaning you actually can't define an empty set in this way. You get it? So now, but if I was just to go just type in a 1 in there, right? I'm just going to say 1. And then let's see what that is. It's telling me now it's a set. You see that?
Your bow.
Yeah? Jack.
Yes.
Jack.
Yeah, I hear.
Yeah. So but if you want to define your empty set, there is a way. I'll show you now, but actually I want to show you something else before we can look at that. But so if I just hover on my number there, you see it tells me already what the type is. You see that? So I just hover on it and say numbers is a dict, right? So meaning a dictionary. So if I put in a 1 there and hover again, it tells me it's a set, right? So one thing that you should see, like when I hover there, it's telling me set. Like we know, let me show you something else. A equals to 1. And then when I go hover there, what does this come on now? A. It tells me int, right? So and we've been using our int, right? Ints we use strings and we use str. So when I do that, it tells me it's an str, right? So where I'm going with this is you can actually see which things to use to get your to like convert something into, like when we converted our string into a number, we use the str, and then str actually is how Python sees our strings, right? It sees them as strs. That's the type that it is. And your numbers, you're not your numbers, but your integers. The symbol for that is an int. Your decimal numbers is your float, and that. So I'm saying that because I want to. We're going to use a new one called set. So I can actually say that, right? And then this is actually an empty set. This gives me an empty set. You see that? So now it tells me this is a set. So and two, you can actually define your set this way, not just because you want it to be empty, but you can also define it in giving it some form of data that you want to use. Let's say I'm going to say top numbers here, which is boom, 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 boom. Tuple 1, 2, 3. Right, boom, and then I can actually just use that there. This will give me my set. You see that it's giving me my set with numbers from 1 to 7, right? I can do the same thing with the list. So I can go just call this lst numbers and then make it a list, right? And then this should give us the same result, 1 to 7, right? I can also go str numbers and then make that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then use this guy. Boom, you see that? So it gives me my set again. But there's something interesting that happened now. What happened? What did you not expect from the output of this one?
The order.
So now let me run. Yeah, I ran it again. Look at that. I ran it again. Look at that.
Weird.
It changed, right? I ran it again. It changed, right? So this is because sets are unordered collections of data, right? So they are unordered. So don't expect order from them, right? So like you're seeing now, every time we're running it with the same input, but it's giving us different outputs. Like 3 times it gave us different outputs, right? So yeah, there's it's an unordered collection of data types. So yeah, with there's something else that I'm getting to now. So now let me. So now if I use LST, right? What do you think the output will be? Or what should the output be? Same as before.
Before you change the list,
Why?
it was only
Why?
1 up to 7. The sets are only recognize unique entries. So if
Yeah.
I think if an entry appears more than once, it registers the like this exists already. Don't do
Yes.
it again.
Yeah. Exactly. So same thing. So you still get 1 to 7, right? So because sets, so like I didn't say the whole definition before because I was going to give it away. So, but a set is an unordered collection of data types. Uh, we know sets are also mutable, and they have no duplicate elements. So you cannot have duplicates inside your set. Cool, cool, cool. I don't know if I don't think I missed anything. Yeah, I think that.
Level, can you nest those what do you call this? You said what do you call when you put that set or you put str in front of your object? What do you call it?
Like casting your set
Yeah,
into
casting.
yeah.
Can you nest it? Can you nest it? Let's say for example you take your tuple, you turn it into, or maybe you take your string, you turn it into a list, then you cast it again into a into a into a set
Okay. So you want me to
in
cast
one line.
what? So you want me to cast this guy into a list.
Let's say yes, you do that, you do it
So
into a
I'm going to
list.
so you say list and then that. And then my list I
Yeah,
turn it into a set.
yeah.
Yeah. Or you want to you have that.
Okay.
That thing is funny, dog. The way it changes orders. It's like it's designed that way to remind you of that rule. It's unordered.
Like, hey, remember this?
Because when you casted that tuple in the beginning, it
Yeah,
put it in the order. When
yeah.
you casted the list in the beginning, put it in the order, and then all of a sudden, and now it wants to change when it's the string. It's like it seems like you forgot.
Yes, like remember. Yeah. So, um, okay, cool. What else can we go through? I think yeah, we're out of time, so we will look at the methods for sets tomorrow, and also just remind me to talk about the documentation and how to search for things. Yeah, when you're stuck, how to search for solutions when you are stuck.
All right.
Okay, cool, man. Cool.
Is it
Sick.
clear?
Yeah.
All right, shout outs.